Okay, well, welcome to another awesome training session. Now, today is just like others in the past. This is going to be a skill building session. So if you came here to hear jokes, well, you'll hear a couple of funny things. And if you came here to just sit back and watch, well, you could still do that too. But this is going to be a skill building session. You see, the whole title of these sessions, they're workshops, right, gang? And the word work is in there, of course, right? And I've learned one thing: the more we work at something, the better we become at it. Would you all agree with that?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So I thought that by working today, you'd leave here with a new skill. And you see, unlike other sessions in the past where I just made you aware of what you need to learn and then sent you off out on your own to go out and learn it, it didn't always happen. So today we're going to do a little work, and we're going to do a little role playing. And here's what I would ask you to do. Those of you that are all here right now, raise your hand if you would, please. Almost all of you are here. Okay, that's good. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to stay here. In other words, when we start role playing, sometimes what happens is people get up and they see that I'm looking and talking to Judy, and all of a sudden they don't see me and they walk out of the room, especially those sitting near the door or outside the door. So what I would like to ask you to do is, once you're here, stay here, participate. I guarantee you if you do, you'll walk away with a new skill. I can't think of any one thing that is more powerful and effective to you making money in real estate at any time in any market than getting your listings priced right. You know, I had an agent literally leave a message for me on my voicemails, Becky Bonifilia. She left me a message and she said, John, I'd love to attend the session today. I'm not going to be able to make it. I have to be with my children today, but I'll definitely watch it on the DVD. And she said, I also want to let you know that pricing is really important. I've had 2 properties recently, and she said, I'm very conservative about pricing my listings, and she is. She's in one of the top 5 people in our entire company that have the highest list-to-sale price ratio. Now, so there's a person who prices her properties correctly, right? I like to say pricing properties properly. Say that 3 times fast, yeah. Right? And in doing that, she still had 2 appraisal problems over the past few months. 2 appraisal problems. So even if Becky's saying, even if you price it right, you still might have an issue or may have a problem. Right, gang? Yeah. So that's the kind of market we're in. Sometimes when I'm in I have this session, specific dialogues for pricing objections, and the average days on market at the time were 30 days on the market. Try to get people to show up for that session. Days on market, 30 days, and I'm having a seminar on pricing your listings to sell. And this is the reaction I'm getting from the audience of the people. They're like this. John, we don't care. I mean, we price it at any price and it sells, yeah. Right? Well, in any market, gang, you need to learn these skills. So even in this market here, we're going to learn. Is it warm in here?
No.
It's me. Okay. All right.
It's her age.
Okay, so here's I didn't know, different things for different people, right, gang?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Well, here's some of the things, you know, there are some things that keep you up at night. For different people, there are different things that keep you up at night. Yes. There are things that keep me up at night. And so what I did is last night I made a list of those things that keep me up at night. Yeah, as I was up all night. Would you like me to share it with you?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
Say yes.
We all
Okay,
have the
good.
same.
All right,
Yes.
good.
The baby was crying.
See if this keeps you up at night, all right? I just made a short list of a few things that keep me up at night. Why do they sell lemon juice made with artificial ingredients and lemon floor polish made with real lemon juice? Now I drink tea with a twist of mop and glow. That's what I do. Why do we park in a driveway and drive on a parkway?
I heard that one. Yeah.
I have to leave you because it's an offer. I'm so sorry.
That keeps me up at night, right? How about this one? Why do they call it a pair of panties and a bra? Doesn't make sense. Why does the sun lighten our hair but darken our skin? Why doesn't glue stick to the inside of the bottle? Right? Think about that. This stuff keeps me up at night.
That's a good
Why
one.
don't you ever see the headline, Psychic wins lottery? Why is abbreviated such a long word? Why is a boxing ring square? Why is it necessary to nail down a coffin lid? Why do doctors practice? Why is it that rain drops but snow falls? Why is it that to stop Windows XP you have to click Start? Think about that. Why isn't there a special name for the tops over your feet? Why isn't there mouse-flavored cat food? Good one. These are things that keep me up at night. Why does one need a driver's license to buy liquor if one can't drink and drive? If you can't drink and drive, why do bars have parking lots? How come wrong numbers are never busy? You ever experienced that? Do people in Australia call the rest of the world up over? Does that screwdriver belong to Philip? Does killing time damage eternity? Why doesn't Tarzan have a beard? Why is it called lipstick if you can still move your lips? Why is it that night falls but day breaks? Why is the third hand on the watch called the second hand? Right? Why is it that when you're driving and looking for an address, you turn the volume of the radio down? You ever do that?
Yep.
You ever lost and you turn the volume of the radio down? Are part-time band leaders semiconductors? Ba-dum-bum. Where's my little... Okay. Can you buy an entire chess set in a pawn shop?
Oh, geez.
Oh, okay. Daylight savings time. Why are they saving it? And where do they keep it? Did Noah keep his beeves in archives? Archives. Archives. Okay, thank you. Do pilots take crash courses?
Right.
Do stars clean themselves with meteor showers? Do you think that when they ask George Washington for ID that he just whips out a quarter? Have you ever imagined a world with no hypothetical situations? Some of you will get this on the car ride home. Some of you will ask for a copy and read these and get them later. Have you ever seen a toad on a toadstool? How can there be self-help groups? How do you get off on a non-stop flight? How do you write 0 in Roman numerals? How many weeks are there in a light year? If a jogger runs at the speed of sound, can he still hear his iPod?
Oh, jeez.
If athletes get athlete's foot, do astronauts get mistletoe?
Oh.
If Barbie's so popular, why do you have to buy all her friends? If cats and dogs didn't have fur, would you still pet them? Things that keep me up at night. If peanut butter cookies are made of peanut butter, then what are Girl Scout cookies made of? If space is a vacuum, who changes the bags? If swimming is good for your shape, why do all the whales look the way they do? If tin whistles are out of... I've got a couple more. Just hang in there. There's just a couple more things that keep me up at night. You ready? If tin whistles were made out of tin, what do they make foghorns out of? If you jog backwards, will you gain weight? Why do they call it chilly if it's hot? Why is the time of day with the slowest traffic called rush hour? Why do real estate agents take listings that are priced too high? Ooh. Things that keep me up at night, right, gang? Things that keep me awake at night. That's just a short list of the things that keep me up at night. Listen, gang, there's a couple other things I want to mention to you, and here it is. All the servicing in the world will not sell a non-saleable listing. All the servicing in the world will not sell a listing that is not saleable. I hear agents say to me all the time, even when I was an agent myself, before I became a manager and a trainer, they would say to me, John, what can I do to get this listing sold? Come on, you must have a buyer for it. What can I do to get this listing sold? And I remember my first listing, my first month in real estate. I was so excited. I sat at a table with top producers because my manager said that would be a good idea. If you wanted to learn more about real estate, you should sit with people that are selling more real estate, you know? You become the company you keep. You ever hear that saying, right? Mm-hmm. So I wanted to sell more real estate, so I sat at the table where all the top producers were sitting. And we were having a breakfast. It was for an awards banquet. And of course, I wasn't getting an award. I was new to the business. And I remember sitting at the table, and they were all talking about their listings, and I thought, well, here's a great opportunity. I'm gonna be part of this conversation. Say, well, I just took a listing, and they said, great. How long have you had it? I said, I've had it for about a couple weeks. And one of the top producer in the company leaned over to me in front of everyone in the table and said, because I was so proud, but I think it was her job to kind of knock me down a notch. And she said, well, why hasn't it sold yet? I said, well, it's a two-family, and it's not in great shape and all that. And she said, no, why hasn't it sold? And so I said, well, maybe it just takes some more time. And I came up with all these reasons why it didn't sell. And she looked at me in front of everyone and she said, listen, John, the only reason a listing doesn't sell is because of price. And I didn't get it right away because I thought, no, I don't understand. Because I was new to the business. I was new to real estate. I didn't have the experience to believe her wholeheartedly right away. But I thought, well, she must know something. And I thought about it more and more on the car ride home and later on that day and even into the next day. And I thought, wow, you know what? The only thing that will get a property sold is price. It's the only thing preventing it from moving. And many of you have heard me joke around. You've heard other speakers say this too as well, where they say, listen, John, the reason why my listing isn't selling is because of the location. And Louise says, well, then move the house, right? Well, I can't move the house. That's silly. Well, then lower the price. John, the reason why my listing isn't selling is because it's not staged properly, or it needs work, or it needs a lot of work, it needs cosmetics, it needs structural work. And so I say, well, okay, well then fix the house. Well, the seller can't afford to do that, then lower the price. Well, they can't afford to do that either, then take it off the market. It's not going to sell anyway. Why are you wasting your time? Why are you wasting your time? Why are you wasting their time? It's just false hope that you would even imagine that anything could possibly happen. Here's something else that will never sell a listing that is not a non-saleable listing. And you know what that is? All the advertising in the world will not sell a listing that is not saleable. Because here's what happens. Real estate agents buy into the fact of what sellers say to them. Because sellers say to real estate agents, well, how come my house isn't selling? And the agent gets a little panicked and doesn't know what to say. And so the agent says, well, I'll do an open house. I'll service the listing. Or the agent says, well, I'll call my manager and I'll see to it we get an ad in the newspaper this Sunday, guaranteed. I promise you. If I have to pay for it myself, I'll advertise that property for you. And so now what you're doing is you're convincing the seller that they're right, that all the servicing and advertising, those are the two things that are going to get my property sold. So the seller believes it. The agent helps the seller believe it by and what is the agent really doing? See, I don't think they do it intentionally. I don't think agents do it. I think that they're just living in this sense of false hope that they really don't understand. They don't get it yet. They believe, because here's what has happened. Here's why the agents believe it. Now, to get a license, you have to be pretty smart. You can't be silly to get into this business. You have to have a head on your shoulders in order to get into the real estate business. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for anyone that's in the business and that's made it in the business and has listed and sold real estate. But here's what happens, just so you understand what goes on in your mind and what goes on in the mind of an average real estate agent. Here's what happens. You list the property for sale, you advertise it, you get a call, and the house sells, and therefore your subconscious mind is conditioned in believing that the way to get a property sold is that you, what? Advertise it. Because you did it before and it worked, right? Some of you keep having open houses on your listings in hopes that they will sell because you remember one time someone in your office at a sales meeting back in 1982 raised their hand and said, you know what, I just sold my listing through an open house. Open houses are the way to go. And sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. Okay, gang? You know what? The only way to get a property sold with no advertising at all, and no servicing, is to price it right. You price it right, gang, and the listing sells itself. You don't have to listen to sellers complaining. You don't have to have open houses. You don't have to have multiple showings. You don't have to pay for advertising out of your pocket. My goodness, the advertising that this company does even just through the internet alone, I mean, it's tremendous. So we can't even keep up as agents and managers with all the places and all the time that our listings are being advertised and seen on all the websites out there. I have to literally check on every 1 or 2 weeks to find out what other website has all of our listings exposed to the public for advertising and information. So in terms of getting the word out there, gang, it's out there. If your listing isn't selling, there's only one reason and one reason only. And what is it? Let me hear it.
The
Price.
price.
The price. All right, you guys are good. The price is right, Mark? So, pricing it right gets the listing to sell without servicing and advertising. That's the note that I made. And if you want to cut down your servicing, if you want to have more fun in real estate, you want to have more time, energy, and effort for yourself, you want more people to give you more referrals, you want more people to pay you a higher commission, it's very simple. Price it right. Oh, but John, it's so much easier said than done. No, I know it is, right? But that's why we're here today. We're going to practice, drill, and rehearse 3 different dialogues that I'm going to give you today that are all based on getting your listing priced properly, things that you can say to the seller. Now, in addition to that, GMAC also offers a DVD. You can go online and pick it up, and it's on pricing your home to sell, and you can buy that as well, and you can play that for the seller. There's another DVD out there by David Knox called Pricing Your Home to Sell. That I like that one as well too, and that's a great video you can play for the seller. Some of you feel very comfortable doing it. Some of you have already bought the DVDs and you're actually using them on your listing appointments, and I think that that is awesome. I think it's fantastic because now you have a third-party person telling them and it's not you. But let's say you don't have the DVD, or let's say you want to learn to be able to use the words. Well, today you came to the right workshop, okay? Because in this workshop, we're going to learn skills and techniques that will help take you to get your listings sold, gang. I can't think of anything more important than this. You know, what's that other saying that Floyd Wickman says? Worse than having what?
Worse than having a listing is having a listing overpriced or something.
Yeah,
Worse
but-
than no listing at all is, it's number 4 here. A listing that doesn't sell.
Right.
Yeah.
Worse than having no listing at all is having a listing that won't sell.
That's
That was
right.
good, Mark.
That's right.
You know what, gang? You're better off being listless than having listings that won't sell. What is the one thing that won't sell a listing?
Overpriced.
Price.
Price.
That's it. It's really simple. But John, what if they just won't do it? Don't list the house. See, one of the biggest things that we have, the biggest problems we have, and some of you are the most successful people in this industry, you're successful in many ways and you get referrals from people because you have a hard time saying no. You just say yes to everybody, and you give great service to anybody needs anything, you say yes, yes, yes. So when someone says, I want you to list my house at this price, some of you just simply have a hard time saying no. So I'm going to make it easy for you. I'm going to give you some different things to say other than saying no. And ultimately, if these 3 dialogues don't work, then you need to decline the listing. And at that point, that's when it takes more guts and more fortitude than anything. Listen, any weak person can take an overpriced listing. Anybody can do that. In fact, sometimes sellers will interview 3 different people, and they'll hire the weakest agent. And you're thinking to yourself, why did they hire that agent? That agent is weak. Well, it's because, now don't get mad when I tell you this, okay? Don't get mad at me. It's because you didn't have the fortitude or the words or the ability to convince the seller why they should list with you at a lower price. That's why you lost the listing to a lesser qualified agent who took the listing, and at some point the listing sold because the seller told the agent to reduce it, right? Right, gang? Or it didn't sell. You know, here's a dialogue I used to use when I was working with sellers. And this fits into the category of like the $1 million dialogue category, and that is this. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, my job today is to help you, to provide you with facts and information to help you make a decision. There are 2 decisions that you need to make tonight. Number 1, should you or should you not sell your home? Now, they're not expecting to hear that when I go in there because they're thinking that I'm going to do everything I can to sell them on listing and selling their home.
That's a great. I'm
Yeah.
sorry for interrupting,
No,
but
please, that's
that
fine.
is a great thing. Because I've just experienced that, and
You did?
had I said that, maybe it's not time for you to sell your house. You know, it's sort of a shocking thing for them.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it may have. I can't swear to it, but it may have turned it around a little.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because what it does is it really you're in the driver's seat when you say that.
Yes.
Instead of always apologizing or well, you know, we can. Yeah, that's a great one.
You're in control.
Yes.
You know, some of the best ways to get somebody to want something is you take it away from them.
Exactly.
Right?
That's a good one.
You know, there's an agent, and you know, I heard her interviewed on one of Floyd Whitman's CDs, and on the CD it was how to handle the commission objection. And her attitude toward her sellers is this: listen, I only take 12 listings at a time, no more than that. And right now, I have 12 listings, so until one of mine goes under agreement, I can't list your property. You're going to have to wait.
Because my pocketbook is
You know?
full, yeah.
And what she would do is now let me go on to say this. Now this is different. And guess what? It works. She sells high-end properties, $1 million plus properties, right? And here's her reasoning: because of the level of service I provide, and because of all the things that I do, I don't have an assistant. I personally do everything to make sure that your property and you are properly taken care of. And I commit to you 100% of myself and my excellence when I list your property. And so I've learned that by listing more than 12 properties, that my services get watered down and I'm not able to effectively give everyone the best service that I possibly can. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to take your listing in the next week or two, but I'll certainly come on by, take a look at your listing, and we can talk about it. But I'm not sure I'm actually even going to be able to list your property for sale. And so now it makes customers say, ooh, wow, that's exclusive. Let me tell you, the best
I think we'll have to wait 5 years.
Right. the best hairstylist, right? You have to book that stylist out 6 to 8 weeks in advance. You can't just walk in and get an appointment with the best hairstylist in the best salon in town, can you?
Well, Mark,
Absolutely not.
Mark,
Right.
you just got connections.
Right, unless you have connections, right? Absolutely.
Or the best doctor.
Yeah, the best doctor, absolutely. Some people will literally wait months to have surgery to make sure that they have it with the best person. For you it was a month, right? Right. And so, because you'd rather have it done right and wait than to, and that's the psychology that this woman is using, and it's working. And guess what else? Even just by the reaction of everyone in this room, no other agent is doing that. So it automatically makes her different, right? Who would possibly turn down a listing, right?
What was the number 2 you said?
We're waiting.
2 things. One would be, let's see whether you should sell your home. What was the number 2?
Thank you for keeping me on track. That's
Right.
great. So here's the here's the dialogue, right?
Oh, that was probably me
Mr.
interrupting.
No, thank you for
Yeah.
contributing. So I appreciate that. It was very helpful
Timely.
helpful to what we were what we were saying, and kept us on track too. Now, the second thing is, the first thing is for us to determine whether or not you should or should not sell your home. The second thing is this: if you decide that you should sell your home, then we need to talk about why you would hire me and my company. But first, let's take care of you. Let's find out if you should or should not even sell your property, right? And what I would do is I get to the pricing portion of the presentation, and as we're talking about pricing, I help them determine what they're going to net in their pocket, and I simply turn to them and say, is this a number you can live with right here? And they'll say yes or no. And if they say no, then I say, well, you might as well cancel the other appointments with the other agents as well, because now you know what the value of your home is worth, and it doesn't make sense for you to sell in this market at this time. And then I always hit them with, by the way, if you do list with another agent at a higher price, here are all the disadvantages in doing that. Your house becomes a white elephant on the market. People are going to drive by your property and wonder why the sign's been there so long, and they're going to think something's wrong with
House.
not the agent, the house. Right, Mr. and Mrs. Seller?
Yeah.
So the worst thing you could do right now is try the market. You know what? The market has already been tried and it's been proven. Here are 3 comps that will show exactly what we've done and how we've done it. Okay, gang? So those are some of the features and the details of what I would say to them and why. And it would work. It was very powerful. Because what it was doing for me personally, it was also pre-qualifying whether or not I wanted the listing. Because if it didn't make sense for them to sell, I wasn't just going there to take a listing for the sake of taking a listing. In fact, we learned in real estate school way back that that would be the worst thing we could do to develop a relationship and to help you to become successful at getting your property sold, right? Just to take a listing. That would only lead to letting you down, right? And we don't want to do that. Okay, so.
Can I say something? There's
Please.
a girl in town who, Judy Bell, I'll name who she is, and she gets all the very high listings. And when you go, let's say, to do it, and other people, she's always higher than we are, 10,000 or 15. So of course they all go with her. She doesn't care. She even discusses it's her thing. She knows they're going to take her because they prefer that price. And then after 2 weeks, after she's got her feet in the ground, after 2 weeks, they bring it down to our price. Of course, they don't call us back to say, oh, you were right, because we know we're right, but they continue with her. And she does that all the time.
Here's the number one reason why she has not met a formidable person to go up against her to compete with her. Because if you or any of you went up against her in a listing presentation, you brought the video with you, and you brought the slides with you, and you brought even the handouts that you have in your listing presentations that show the bell curve of the activity. When you get the most amount of activity in the first 2 to 3 weeks that your property is listed. So the biggest number one mistake you could make is, it's ironic that it's called a bell curve, right? Right? And the worst thing you could do is list your property at a higher price during this time frame. You see, I have a competitor of mine, and what her strategy is, and I described the strategy, and they're thinking, yeah, we know, we talked to that person, that was their strategy, right? And her strategy is that we list it high and then come down later.
Exactly.
Here's a disadvantage. You're listing it high at the peak time when you have all of your activity. The highest point of activity on your property is the first 2 to 3 weeks that your home is on the market, and that's the worst time to overprice it. In fact, some agents do that just to get the listing. And Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I don't want to come here just to get the listing. I want to get your home sold, and I want to start off our relationship honestly and not start it off with a lie telling you you're going to get this price up here when in reality it's not likely. And in fact, it's probably the worst way to get your home sold fast and for the most amount of money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Great. Any questions?
Yes.
All you need to do now is simply sign this form, and I'll get the sign in the yard in a few days. But see, no one's gone up against her and showed and proved to the seller that this is the case. You see what I'm saying?
Oh,
Yes.
she's had all the best.
I think, first of all, Judy Bell has got a reputation like nobody else around.
Yep.
And then you open up the newspaper on Sunday, and in fact, I think it was in the reminder last week, that she is the #1 realtor
In Long Meadow.
in not only
Same.
Long Meadow, everywhere.
Mhm.
So you're thinking of selling your house, and you see that, you've never heard of Judy Bell, but my God, that's who I'm gonna call.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a hard worker, I'm sure she works
Sure.
7 days
Yes.
a week.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, when you see that, and then you hear Claire Florian's a realtor, but, I never see her. I never see anything about her. Probably nice, but I need somebody that's gonna move that house. I'm sure that's how it works.
Yeah. Here's the deal, gang. She doesn't list all of them. Look at MLS.
No, but she lists a
So,
lot.
I understand she does, but so do other people list a lot too. But there's a lot out there. Let me just say this. There's some frustration that I have, if you don't mind me venting a little bit. I'm just waiting for one person to become a specialist in calling for sale by owners and expireds. We talk about it over and over and over again, and I've not met, well, there is one person that I know of in our company that's doing that. So what are we actively doing? If you look at the list of productive activities on the board here, what are we actively doing to go and get those listings? Here's another fact. She doesn't sell every single one of her listings. Some of her listings do expire. Who's calling those people? Right?
They're on
Right?
the do not
So
call list.
who's knocking on their door? They're not on the do not knock list,
I go
right?
on.
That's what I'm saying, gang. Who's calling? They're not on the do not mail list. You know, how come no one's come up with a postcard yet saying, listen, I would love to call you, but you're on the do not call list, and I need to talk to you. Please call me.
We'll make it.
Right. I mean, why don't we have people going to their houses and dropping off, putting a little sticky note with their business card underneath the sticky note, put it on the door that says, I have some ideas as to why your home hasn't sold. Sorry I missed you. Please call me. Urgent. Right? I heard one technique at a seminar I went to at convention one year where this gentleman actually went out and bought plastic corrugated signs. You know, just the cheap plastic ones. You know, he paid like $9 a piece for them, and he had the metal, the very thin metal posts that go into the like wire that go into the ground. And on the sign, he put his name on it and his phone number and all that good stuff. And then he put a sold sign on top of it, like going across the sign. And then what he does is he attaches an envelope to it, and he puts it between the storm door and the door, or he puts it on their back steps where they go into the house. So when the seller comes home, they see this sign, and it says sold on it with the agent's name and photo and phone number on it, and then there's an envelope attached. Then they pick up the envelope, they open the envelope, and inside it shows a list of testimonials of people whose homes that he sold that had expired before. In there, it'll also say, you know, I have some ideas as to why your home hasn't sold. I'd love an opportunity to come by and put this and be able to put this sign in your yard. And it says sold on it, right? Let me ask, I mean, who's doing that for $9 a shot, right? But yet, agents will spend hundreds of dollars on personal self-promotion and advertising and postcards and mailings and spend hours of their time. Time is what, gang?
Money.
Sitting at an open house where no one shows up, right? On a listing that's been listed for 6 months and still hasn't sold yet. Servicing, servicing, servicing. See, you are spending money now. You're spending it in your time, servicing listings that are overpriced, chasing properties where sellers don't have to sell, wasting their time and yours. Just have an open mind and go out there and prospect for new business. Okay?
If you've gone through the market analysis and you've convinced your seller to price it right,
Yes.
and it still doesn't sell, is that the market changing and you've got to revisit that and price it lower?
Absolutely. Yes, you just answered the question. Yep.
Okay.
In fact, I probably shouldn't elaborate even on that. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
You know, some people have a strategy when they list a property for sale. They say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is our best guess in the market right now based on the market analysis. As you can see, prices are trending down.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need to do is we need to take a look at this, and as part of our 30-day marketing plan, at the end of the 30 days, we're going to revisit and look at all the showings, the feedback, all the marketing, and the activity we received, and see if we've had any offers at the end of 30 days. If we haven't had any offers, my recommendation would be make an adjustment in the pricing anywhere between 3 to 5%, and keep doing that every 30 days until we get an offer. Any questions? Right? That's the strategy. Some agents will even actually have the price adjustment filled out in advance
That's a good idea.
upon taking the listing. Listen, I'll list it at this price here now, but we're going to list it at this price here later on. You know, here's the only one reason why you could or should take an overpriced listing, and that is that if they have to sell their home. If somebody has to sell their home, it might be okay. I'd be a little more lenient. I wouldn't way overprice it by any means for anybody. But if they wanted to try it a little higher, just a little higher, just a little higher, I'd be willing to do that if I knew they absolutely had to sell their home. Because in 30 days, they're going to come to me and tell me to make the adjustment in the price.
That's exactly
Follow
what
me?
happened.
Here's why agents are getting burnt out in real estate. They're taking listings on properties of people that don't have to sell. I looked at a property this weekend, actually, that we were actually interested in buying ourselves. And it was built by a builder, and it was a new home, never been lived in before. Phenomenal construction. I mean, 2x6, extra heavy-duty nails. You know, everything was unbelievable. It was in the town of Millbury, okay, and it was a great house. Okay, it's still. I should say it wasn't. It is a great house, and it's currently on the market. It's been on the market for 245 days. now more than that. The realtor said to us, we said to the realtor, we said, based on the comps that are out there and based on the location of this property, we're guessing that, would the builder take a lower offer because, it seems like he's about $35,000, $40,000 out of the price range in which you can get another home similar to this in. And here's what the realtor said. Now, this realtor's had the listing for more than 6 months. Other realtors had it before her. And I just shook my head. I went, oh, man, I wish I could just shake this person and say, wake up. Here's what she said. He doesn't have to sell. There's no mortgage on the property. Go ahead, laugh. There's no mortgage. He doesn't have to sell. So he's just going to, what?
Wait.
He's going to wait. And I laughed out loud, when I heard what this agent had said.
Say that?
And I thought to myself, wow, this is just crazy. So then I started thinking logically. I said, wait a minute. It's okay. I mean, he's got enough money where he can keep paying the taxes on the property. That doesn't cost him any money to keep the property. How about heating the property in the winter? What about
Cash flow.
what about the cash flow opportunity? Like if the property is worth $340,000 and he's asking $385,000, what could you do with $340,000, Mr. Builder, if you had that cash in your pocket right now? Could you go out and buy more land and build more homes? Could you invest it in mutual funds and get a little bit of rate on your return? Because his investment right now is in real estate, and what's happening to that investment? It's like holding on to a stock with a company that you know is going out of business. Right? And he's holding on because he's going to wait. Why? Oh, it's not costing him any money. He doesn't have a mortgage. Here's what blows my mind more than anything is that the realtor really believes this. And what might be even worse is that the builder believes this. And so somebody needs to kind of wake them up and say, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? I mean, does it really not cost you any money? Why would you take a listing that's $45,000 overpriced with someone who has no motivation to get the property sold? Open houses, there's a sign outside in front of the house that says open Sunday 1 to 3. And guess what? That sign never comes down. Every weekend. There's a chair and a card table set up and a radio set up inside the kitchen of the house where the realtor sits every weekend, spends their Sunday waiting. So get this, the house is half finished. I walk in and I say, well, what am I going to get? If I am going to pay $385 for this house, what am I going to get for my money? What kind of cabinets? What flavor rugs and hardwood flooring are you providing? What quality? Am I getting granite countertops, Formica countertops, Corian countertops? You said there's air conditioning available. What does that mean? Will he actually put it in at that price, or will he not put it in at that price? I mean, what are all the specific? And here's the answer that I got. Well, no, we don't have that information. We don't know. You'd have to meet with the builder and talk about that. And I thought,
Make a deal with him.
I just want to wake up.
Are you allowed,
Right, Kate?
are you allowed to ask, let's say when that person was there, to say, you won't accept my offer, and you're trying to explain the other side saying, well, if you keep it all winter, there'll be the taxes, there'll be the heat and all that. Are you allowed to say that to that other
You can say
realtor?
anything.
Yeah, but often
Absolutely.
this is when they come out and say, oh, so you're telling me what to do?
Yeah. Here's what I wouldn't do, Jim.
Actually, should she even have revealed his financial situation?
She could if she had his permission to do that. Yes, she could.
Oh.
It's okay to do it if the builder said, hey, if anybody asks you, you just tell them, hey, I don't have to sell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of them say
Yeah,
that.
'cause they will
don't
say
have
that
to say
sometimes.
that, yeah.
Now, but here's what I would do. If I were really interested in buying the property, and I'm not, it's in a neighborhood with other properties, it's mixed neighborhood.
Right.
There aren't a lot of homes there's not one home that's new in the neighborhood. It's on a corner lot, and one on the side of the house is somewhat of a busy street.
Why did you waste your time to look at that?
Well, good point, right? That's another story that we can talk about at lunch later on today, okay? I don't want to get into that. So the bottom line is, it's in a home in the neighborhood there. I drove down the other end of the street, and there was a 6-family home,
Oh,
and so
wow.
there's all different types of different properties there, and I thought, geez, you know, if you were to build a house, you know, I'd have built something like maybe an attached, two attached single-family homes together, you know, something like that, and sold two homes side by side, maybe give a 2 or 3 bedroom instead of a 4-bedroom colonial. I'd have put in 2, you know, attached single-family homes or something like that with no garage. I mean, it would have sold quicker, would have got more money for it. So there's someone who didn't do their homework prior to getting involved in that situation. But what were we talking about before that? I lost my track of thought.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, I asked, were we allowed to ask the person, you know?
Oh, yes.
yeah,
Oh,
so
here.
that's
Thank
what
you.
we do.
Thank you, Mark. You got me back on track. And can you imagine that, Claire? I go.
I don't know if I want that.
I was here.
Realtor, I think
I was
he's
here,
using his
and then I
marbles.
was gone, and now I'm back.
Okay.
So what I would do if I was sincerely interested in the property is I would not talk, and this is for all you buyer agents in the room, I absolutely would not get into a conversation verbally with the agent about the price at all. Here's what I would do. Here's the strategy if you were sincerely interested. Get the list of everything that's included for the $389. Make your offer. With your offer, supply comps. Supply a letter with all the reasons of what it's going to cost, all the things that the builder's going to lose if he doesn't sell you the house, right? Which we just talked about. Along with the offer, along with some comparables that show the value of why you put your offer in at your offering price, along with complimenting on how much you think how great the house is, right? Because some people try to knock it down, say all the good things about the house. But mention, you know, that you can buy another property. But here's the reasons why I want to buy this property instead of the other properties, and this is what the average sale price is. My concern as a consumer is that the property might not appraise for these reasons. And if it doesn't appraise with me, of course, it might not appraise with other people. Well, that's why I'm hoping you'll consider my offer and take the $340,000 and invest it in other properties that you can buy and sell and all that other good stuff. So, and then I would submit the offer. I would not ask an agent to go to a third-party person, whether it's a seller or a builder, to try to negotiate on my behalf like that. It just wouldn't make any sense. Okay, specific dialogues for pricing objections. Number 5 on the list. The key to handling a large inventory of listings is A, hard work, B, hire assistance, or C, saleability.
Saleability.
Oh, you guys have been listening. You've been paying attention. That's good. Number 4, worse than no listing at all is an overpriced listing, an underpriced listing, or a listing that doesn't sell.
A listing that doesn't sell.
Awesome. C is correct. Number 3, the key to saleable listings is the right price, the right commission, the right terms, or D, all of the above.
All of the above.
D, that is correct. Who's responsible for saleability? Seller, broker, or listing agent? Well, there's always one little tricky question.
All of the above.
That's, well, yeah, that's true, Mart. I like that.
Boy,
If D
you
was an
should be
option, it would be
assistant
right.
manager.
I know.
The
That's
listing
right.
agent.
The listing agent, absolutely. Absolutely.
listing agent.
Take responsibility, because you can't, you know, what did Nancy Reagan say about drugs, folks?
Say no.
Nancy Reagan?
Yeah.
Say no
What's she
to
doing? About drugs?
Second that.
Yeah. What did she say?
About
Just say
say
what?
no.
Just say
Say
no.
no, yes.
All right. Linda
Oh.
knows. You remember that, right?
Oh, who said that?
Nancy Reagan.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
Just
Still
say
looks
no.
good, actually.
When a listing sells, who has to be sold on the price? The buyer? The lender? The appraiser? Or all of the above?
All of
the
the
above.
above.
Ooh, you guys are good!
Is it worth it to invite sellers to get an appraisal done?
Absolutely. In fact, we did it just in our office, and we had about a $35,000 or $40,000 price adjustment as a result. We had a property that was on a busy street. It was a single-family home that was also converted into a business and was zoned where you could do either or.
Right, so it's a tricky one to figure out.
Exactly. And it was difficult to find comparable properties to that. And I kept telling the agent over and over and over again, get the seller to have a professional appraisal done. 3 months into it, finally the seller agreed to do it, and the agent ended up with a massive price adjustment. I think it was like $35,000, $40,000 price adjustment.
What was the price to get the appraisal? Is it
It's like $300.
300?
Yeah.
That's
It's well worth it. And, you know, and what I asked the agent to explain to the seller is that, listen, it's going to cost you more than that every month you own the property.
Yeah.
I mean,
Taxes.
let's look at what your mortgage payment is $1,500. How many dollars of that $1,500 is going toward interest payments and not principal? That always wakes people right up.
Yeah.
They go, wow. I was on a car ride back from camping with my brother, and one of his friends was driving, and he owns a property that he's not living in. And his mortgage is about $1,500 a month on this property. And he hasn't lived in it in 6 months. He's living with his fiance. They're going to get married and live in her home. And so then he said, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to keep fixing it up a little bit here and there, and I'm going to wait, and I'm going to get the property sold. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. He said, yeah. I said, how long does it take you to save $9,000 in your savings account? And he's like, what? What are you talking about? How? I said, what could you do? Let me ask you a question. What kind of truck could you drive? Because he drives a truck. I said, what kind of truck could you own and drive for, I don't know, let's say $750 a month car payment? He said, wow. I said, yeah. I said, and then how would you like to save, in addition to that, an extra maybe $4,000 or $5,000 at the end of the year, in addition to having a $750,000 truck payment? What kind of truck you could have? How would your life change if you had just kept the truck you had, and I just gave you $1,500 a month cash? How would you feel about that? He's like, whoa. I said, what's 1,500 times 12? It's 9,000, right? I said, you're losing $9,000 a year by keeping your home and not selling it because you just want to tinker around and fix it up.
That's only part of it, too.
Yeah, see, I told him what I was losing by not selling his home. And then he said, well, I'm going to sell it for sale by owner because I want to save the commission. Now listen, guess who's, I'm in the car. We have, but honest to God, this is the funniest thing, Louise. Thank you for appreciating this. I'm in the back seat of the car. He's driving. And guess what? I have my laptop with me. And he says to John Miller, I'm thinking about selling for sale by owner. And I just went, oh, you are so dead. And I pulled up my laptop and I went through my for sale by owner presentation that I taught you all in a previous session. And I went slide by slide. He was looking, couldn't look, but he was driving, so I had to tell him all this. And I was closing him on every slide and giving him the 3 reasons why real estate agents have, the 3 reasons why for sale by owners eventually list with us, how we can, not the reasons, the 3 facts. Sellers eventually list with real estate agents get more money and get it sold faster for them, and we've been in business for over 100 years. There's got to be a reason why. You have to ask yourself. And then I went through the 6 obvious reasons as to why all those 3 facts are true. And literally, literally halfway through the presentation, he said, "Oh no," he said, "No, you're right. I've got to get an agent." I said, "The bottom line is, you do all the work, and you net the same amount of money, or you get an agent to do all the work, and you'll net more money because of your situation. Every month that property isn't sold, that it takes you longer to sell, you're losing $1,500 a month."
On interest, you're talking about.
On interest alone, yeah, interest alone is wiping them out. So. And I said, prices are going down. I said, so the more you wait, the more you're losing your equity of your property.
And if nobody's living there,
Right.
doesn't he have to pay more for insurance because the house isn't living?
Vacant
house.
property insurance.
Yeah.
I asked him if he had that. He said no. And I said,
You
well,
will.
I said, well, let me ask you a question. Does it look like it's lived in? I said, have you have it? He goes, no. All my furniture's out of it. I said, if that place
Yeah,
burns
you'll get
down
killed.
and the insurance company goes to investigate and they see that there's no furniture or clothes in the closet that have been burnt up, you will not get insurance coverage. You need to have vacant property
That's
insurance.
right,
I
and
said,
that's
have you ever
expensive.
priced that out? He said, no. I said, I don't know what it is, but it's expensive. You may want to check into it.
Price.
Tell people what they're going to lose if they don't do something. Literally, at the end of the car ride, he eagerly wrote down my name and number. He lives in a town in an area where we don't have an office even close to it, and so I told him I'd do some research for him and refer him to the best agent in the area. I found an agent who has an inventory of 18 listings and has already sold 15 properties since the beginning of the year. And she's by far the best, most productive agent. And I told him the reasons why. Here's another objection he gave me that you folks will learn from. He said, well, if we do use a realtor, we're going to use my wife's friend. She just got her license. Ooh. And so I said, well, the disadvantage in that is that you could lose a friend over it. More importantly, his name's Justin. I said, Justin, this is a business decision and not an emotional decision, and we're playing with your money here. And so, let me ask you a question. I mean, if this were surgery or you needed something important done, or your accountant and your taxes, if you needed your taxes done, you wouldn't hire someone just because they were a friend of the family, would you? Let me explain to you the differences between real estate agents and the level of experience, and activity breeds activity. And you want to list with an agent who has more listings, because agents take listings and they attract buyers. And if an agent has 10 listings, they have 10 different ways of attracting buyers that they can then bring to your property, right? So I went through that whole thing with him, and he said, wow, that's true. He literally called his fiance on the phone and told her everything that I told him, almost verbatim. He was on the phone with her for over 20 minutes. Yo, yeah, John said this, and boom, 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 and this is why we have to do this. We have to do it right away, you know. And so he had listed with that agent, and it's working. So again, gang, you know, follow the simple. You don't know when these tools and techniques can become readily available to you, and that can make you money. Sometimes the seller says, well, we want to price it high. By the way, Linda, we can always come down, right? Sometimes they say that to you. And here's what you say in response. Well, this could be the best kept secret in Massachusetts. Now let me see if I understand you right, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. You're saying that you'll take the $450,000, but you just want to try it at a higher price in case the buyer makes an offer. Is that what you're saying to me? And sellers do say that, don't they? Right? Okay, well that sort of makes sense, and that's the way we used to do it. Are you familiar with the expired list? And then you take out the expired list and you fan it out over the entire table. You show them a huge list of all the expireds over the past year, right? I think last session we had, Coldwell Banker alone had, in the last 12 months, had 546 expired listings in the last 12 months alone, right? If you weren't at the last session, you've got to get this tool that I put together that shows how the top 3 multi-office companies in all of Western Massachusetts, the average expired listing per agent is 2.7 in the other 2 companies, and in our company it's only 2.1. So out of the top 3 companies in the area, which company would you list with to not have your home expire? And that would be our company, right? And so if you want, I can email that to you. If you weren't at the session, just email me and ask for it, and I'll get it to you. I took the liberty of bringing a copy with me and showing the copy. What you need to know is that most of these people have 2 things in common. One is they couldn't sell, and 2 is they were thinking the same thing that you're thinking right now, which is, let's try it at a higher price and we can always come down. But you know what they didn't realize? You may not know that you'll take less, and you may know you'll take less, and I may know you'll take less, but according to the laws of this state, I'm not allowed to tell another single human being. Now let me ask you this, and be honest. And that's something I always like you to throw in there when you want to get the answer that you need. Always say that to them, you know, be honest. If the best you could do was $450,000, not that you'd be thrilled, but would you take it? And they say, yeah, okay. Well, in other words, in any other case, I would say, well, what the heck, why not? Let's try it. But in your case, where I know you need to sell or you want to sell, let's try this. Let's put it on the market for $450,000 and let's be firm about it. You know, you see, I'd rather see you turn down 10 offers in a row than to never get one looker because the law says I'm not allowed to tell anybody what you're thinking. Fair enough? Everybody, practice that with me. Ready? Say fair enough. Ready? Go.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. And then do this with your head. Do it again. Ready? Go.
Fair enough.
Right. Good. All you need to do now is simply approve this form, and I'll get this signed in the yard in a couple of days. And then what do? You hand him the pen, and then what do? Stop packing up. Stop putting all your papers together and stop packing up and get ready to go. And then sometimes they say, well, can't we just try it at a higher price? You know, they stay on you, right? So sometimes the first one doesn't always work. So then we use what's called the 3 sales dialogue. You know, if it were just me and you, I would go along with that thinking about using a higher price. But do you know a lot of sellers don't realize? Okay, you familiar with what we call fall throughs, right? Many times homes are sold, the transaction falls through, and the seller has to put the home back on the market and start all over again. Let me explain exactly why. You see, sellers do not realize that more than one sale has to be made. First of all, let's assume that I go along with you, and I'm basing my price on this CMA. And then what you do is you review the CMA again with the seller, okay? And so you review it again. Can you see how I based my price? So you're reviewing the CMA with them and you say, do you see how I based my price? When a buyer comes along and a buyer is going to make a decision on the home, then the buyer makes their decision on this CMA. How many buyers might you possibly have that after they review the CMA, they change their mind? Most buyers are working with buyer's agents. Most buyer's agents are doing a what? A CMA on the property before they make an offer. So what you're showing the seller is that, listen, you're not hiding anything from anybody here. Any serious buyer that's going to buy your property is going to look at the same 3 comparable properties. This CMA right here that I have, these are the 3 comparable sold properties that the buyer's going to look at to make their offer. So what do you think the buyer's going to do? And if you're overpriced, how many buyers might you lose after they look at the CMA and look at your price? And they may not make an offer at all. You know, it's not in the dialogue, but here's a fact. Buyers are more apt to make a full-priced offer on a home that's priced right than to make a lower offer on a home that's priced too high. Remember that when you're talking to the seller. Wouldn't that be true for you also, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Right? Wouldn't it be true for anything that you would buy? Wouldn't you just rather, if you knew something was a fair price, you just go in and buy it, rather than going someplace else and try to haggle and work down the price somewhere else? But that's not the worst part. It's not the worst part? No, what's the worst part? Well, the worst part is, let's assume the buyer likes the home and they actually buy it. And now it's off the market for how long? 4 weeks? Now the mortgage lender has to be sold. The mortgage lender calls a certified professional appraiser. Do you know what that appraiser looks at to render an opinion of the value? This CMA. Right? Now let's pretend that you're 3 to 4 weeks down the road. This is still not the worst. It's still not the worst part? What's the worst part? Well, I'll tell you. Once the appraisal is submitted, the lender will not lend the money to who? To buy the house.
Right.
My point is that I'm on your side, but there's more than one sale that has to be made. Do you follow me? Is it fair enough? Do you understand? Yes? You with me? Great. All we need to do now is simply approve this form, and I'll get the sign in the yard in a couple of days. Yes, Claire?
I don't mean to be rude, but I have to leave
Okay.
in 2 minutes.
Yes?
But I just want to say this, I'm about to list a very, very nice house,
Yes?
and I'd like to tell you a little bit about it. First of all, it's my sister,
Yes?
and she put an offer in on a condo that she wants in the worst way. But there's also 2 other people that are about to put an offer in. All 3 are in the same boat. They all have a house to sell.
Okay.
So she's put in an offer, and I said to her, they're not going to take a contingency. We're dealing with relocation, which is tough. And they said, no way, we don't want no contingency. And if you should sell your house, we want to see the contract, and we want to see a letter from the bank. That's the way that we're going to deal with this.
Sure.
Fortunately, I'm dealing with Pam Mitchell, who is a top-notch agent. And she has said, you know, should I get an offer, I will call you right away. So I said, so my sister said, you know, I said, you better put your house on the market right away. So she said, yeah, oh no, I am. But she said, I'm selling it myself. And I said, well, I don't blame you. And she said, you know, I can save a lot of money. And I said, yeah, I do the same thing myself for a couple of weeks. Well, it's been a couple of weeks, and she said to me, I never had so much respect for realtors in my life. She said, you guys earn every single penny. She says, I don't want the aggravation, so I'm going to list it.
Okay.
So anyways, when she was listing it, when she had it, it was at $329,900. She has 2 people who are very interested on her own. However, they have a house to sell, and many people are in the same boat.
Mhm.
So she said, I'm not fooling around. She said, I'm going to list it. So I have put a price on at $334,900, which is just a few thousand more.
Wow.
I went to the Wilbraham office and asked them if they would tour it because we weren't having a tour.
Mhm.
Well, 7 agents came, which I think is quite remarkable.
Yes.
And 3 of them said to me, if you want a quick sale, I would list it at $319,000. I told them I was going $334,000. The other 4 agents said, yeah, you know, I think you're okay. So I know that I can't have an open house Sunday because she's coming back from the Squamish tonight. I'm listing it tomorrow, but I'm asking all of you to come and tour it. I know that next week is the 4th of July, I don't expect you to do that. But the day before, you know, if those of you that could tour it, I really would appreciate it. And Mark's gonna come and look at it
All right.
within a couple of days.
Okay,
So, it's in mint condition. To my opinion, there's not a thing she can do. It's on 5 Greenwich Road in East Long Meadow, beautiful street.
Oh, yeah.
it can't be, guys, it can't be shown or anything until it goes into MLS.
No, I
obviously,
realize
yes.
that.
So we need to,
Now, I have said to her, you haven't got a day to waste
Yeah.
because you're in the best month. So I plan to have an open house Saturday and Sunday, not this week, is that all
Okay.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep,
Now,
as
one
long as
other
it's on the
thing I'm gonna
market, yep.
do, and I don't know if you like this idea or not, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna pay for it,
Yep.
and I'm gonna put an ad in the reminder, and I'm gonna box it. Is that okay?
What's box it mean?
When they put a black line all
Just
around.
so it shows up more.
So it stands
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, they're just, in fact, we have templates that you could use to make it look good and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
They'll do it
Yeah.
at the reminder.
So I've been told that, you know, you can't do that, but I'm gonna do it.
Oh,
You
And I
can do it,
do
it
it.
has to have the company's name in it.
Oh,
it
no,
has to
no,
have
it
the phone
will.
number and all that stuff,
It
so,
will.
yeah.
And as far as
Yeah.
open houses, I know that the tapes I've listened to, they said, you know, it doesn't really pay. And some of you think that no, forget it, I never get anybody. My philosophy is this, I usually have like an open house once a month at least.
Yeah.
And I've not for 6 months because I'm in Florida, which I like a lot better than being here.
Yeah,
And I feel this way, if you get but one customer out of those 6 listings, six times that you have an open house, and you only have an open house from 1 to 3, it's a darn good hourly rate, that's how I
Yeah.
feel.
okay,
All right, bye.
okay.
Now, you guys, I hope you're gonna come.
We'll all go.
Not so much to the
So
party.
you have
but
to
go
list
see-
it first, then we'll go.
Oh, don't worry, honey, I'll be
Yes.
listening tomorrow morning.
Okay,
Okay, goodbye.
goodbye.
Bye, Claire.
Okay, and, you know, in regard to open houses, I mean, they're good for getting leads, but if I had a choice of, you know, doing an open house or calling for sale by owners and expireds, which one would pay you more money? The calling and the prospecting. So again, given a choice, that's what I would prefer to do. And listings historically don't get the listings sold, but kind of like what Claire said, you know, it will help you get leads, you know, and it's better than doing nothing, right? You know, so the last one is, you know, they say to you, well, you know, again, we just want to, they're still giving you some objection about the pricing. So here's what I do. I drew a little visual here at the bottom of the page for you. And on the left-hand side, what I would ask you to do is actually write and or print out on a piece of paper all the details of their property, just like I did on this property. You see that? So I said, you know, your house, 8-room, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2-car garage, 1 fireplace, and any other pertinent information that we would use to come up with the pricing of a property that an appraiser would use, okay?
But that's all in the CMA.
So, follow me on this. I didn't finish yet. So then what you do is you take the first comparable property and here's what I used to do. I used to go to people's homes, not with a CMA packet, but with 3 comps. So all I would do is I would bring 3 comparable properties with me that have sold recently that are similar to that home. And what I would do is I would take out the first comparable property and I'd put it next to their house, and I would ask them, and I'd take a sticky note, a yellow sticky note, and I'd put it over the price. So they couldn't see the price. And then I would say, okay, hey, let's do this. How about you play the appraiser? You're the appraiser now, okay? Now, how much do they think their house is worth? Give me a number.
$250.
All right, let's say that they think their house is $250. So everybody write the number $250 over the top of that, right? Now play along with me on this, all right? You're the appraiser. I'm going to role play. I'm the agent, you're the seller, okay? The agent says, so as you can see, let's compare these 2 properties, comparable number 1 and comparable number 2. As you can see, comp number 1 has more what?
More
More rooms?
More bath. One more bath.
One more
Half of
bath.
that, yeah.
Same so that house has more. So what do you think that house is worth? If you think your house is worth $250, what do you think that home is worth?
Yeah, but it's not as nice as those bathrooms. Yeah,
$275.
Yeah, $275 you'll say, so then you
Let's say
pick it up and it's.
$275.
What is well, I'll go back to what does the appraiser look at? The appraiser doesn't look at the decorating in the bathroom.
That's a different.
What does the appraiser look at, gang? What do you see on this page?
Just for the
rooms.
rooms.
Okay.
What does the appraiser use for their appraisal?
Yeah.
But don't they
Yeah.
use square footage too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they use that square foot, absolutely, yes. But I didn't have room on my page, but I said
Okay.
anything else that's pertinent, okay?
Okay.
So you compare all that other stuff, okay?
But whether you have granite countertops and stainless steel
Yeah.
appliances in your kitchen is really not, in this market,
Let me
that
ask
much
you
of
a
an
question.
advantage.
Look at a professional appraisal report. Does it have any place on the report at all to add those things in there?
I don't believe so.
It absolutely
I've
does
seen a lot
not.
of them in
Here's what they have, good, fair, or what is it, no?
The condition.
Poor, fair, or good.
Yes.
So the property that has granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, in mint condition, even if they do get a chance to get into the home, because some appraisers are appraising properties by driving by, okay? Gang? You know, you updated all this stuff for your own personal enjoyment. You might like the stainless steel granite. Other people might not like it. They might want to come in and change it.
Okay.
Gang, what
good
this,
question.
you know what this does? This totally takes all that stuff that they're thinking and feeling, and oh, I have heavy duty nails, and you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I would love to give you more money for your home because of the heavy duty nails, the granite countertops, and the stainless steel appliances. But the bottom line is, this is what the appraiser's gonna look at. And what did we already say about the appraiser, right? What will happen, even if we do get a buyer? Somebody falls off the turnip truck off of I-91 and they roll into town and they buy the property without shopping around. And they say, I'll take it for the $250.
Can't get a mortgage.
They can't get financing. Why? Because of this, because of these comps. So now let's go back to this. If your home is worth $250, what do you think this home is worth? What might they say?
We're gonna say $275.
$275, okay, take off the yellow sticky note. What's the yellow sticky note say?
$250.
$240. Yellow sticky says $240. Write $240 next to that on top of the sticky note. Write $240 on there.
That's great.
And here's what you're doing, gang. You don't even say a word.
They're doing it.
You just say, lift off the sticky note, and they look at each other and they go, oh. They're doing their own appraisal. You follow me? You see how easy this was for me? Now, no one got mad at me. And this helped me determine and help them to determine whether or not you should or should not sell your property.
Exactly. I was just going to say that answers that question, that
Right.
original question that you know, do you want to sell your home?
Right.
Can you sell your home?
Right.
At some point, can I share some of the objections that I'm getting?
Sure. Yeah, let me finish this one and we'll go through it. Now let's look at comp number 2 and compare it to your house. 8 room, 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2.5 bath, 2-car garage, 2-car garage, 1 fireplace, 1 fireplace. Now, before you saw comp number 1, what would you say that house was worth? $250, because it's the same as your home, right?
Right,
Go ahead, lift off the sticky note. How much is that one? How much did that one sell for?
$230.
$230.
$230.
Right? But John, we need the
Breaking
money,
my heart.
right?
So does the buyer.
Yeah, right. Now let's look at comp number 3. At this point, I think you've got them, right? But now let's cement it even more. Comp number 3. Let's compare your house to comp number 3. 8 room, 4 bedroom. You have 2.5 baths. They have 1.5 baths. You have a 2-car garage. So do they. You have a fireplace. They don't. So your home this house is worth more or less than your property.
Less.
It's worth less. And since comp number 2 sold for $230, what do you think that home sold for?
$220.
See, now they're getting. See, now they're taking off their rose-colored glasses, right, gang?
Going on.
And they're saying, "Wow, yeah, we get it. Now we understand, right?
So 210, huh?
Ooh, right?
What is it, 210?
That's what we decided.
Yeah.
We decided.
So you see, we're
Oh,
off.
the yellow sticker.
We're off $20,000.
Yeah.
You know. And gang,
That's a lot.
that's
in
it's
this market,
just the
that's
way it
a-
is, yeah, that's just the way it is.
So advice to people who are just listing would be paint everything you can paint and don't do any updates, like don't, like if they're saying, oh, should we update the kitchen and put new cabinets and put granite countertops and put all this stuff in, don't do it.
Yeah.
You never get what you.
You're never
You're
gonna
not
get all
gonna
your
get
money
it.
back
Not,
for
not
it.
like the TV shows tell you.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm gonna do, gang.
It'll
I'm gonna-
just put
I'm
them
gonna-
at the top of the list.
I'm gonna change up the format a little bit. We were gonna do some role playing, and what I would ask you to do is, instead of doing role playing, because I feel there's a need for me to answer more questions rather than role playing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this extra time to answer questions than having you role play. I'm gonna ask you to role play on your own, which I absolutely positively know that that's what you're going to do after you leave this room. Right? And I hope you do the same on the DVD. But you have the dialogues now. You've heard me go through them, and you have them, and I want you to practice, study, drill, and rehearse. You know, there's a program out that's been around for I don't know how many years, and it's called Super Learning. And one of the best ways that they ask you to remember something like this is that you have Baroque music playing in the background, and then you read this so you can hear the Baroque music at the same volume level as you can hear the dialogue. And what you do is you read it 3 times into the recorder. And I have a digital recorder that I use for this, and then I have, but you can use a tape recorder if you want. And what you do is the first time you read it in a very soft tone of voice like this. The second time you read it in a very normal tone of voice. And the third time you read it in a very loud and boisterous and outlandish sort of tone of voice, okay? And then what you do is you play that over and over and over again, and what it will do, it will help you to remember it while you're driving in your car. Because while you're driving in your car, you shouldn't be reading your scripts and dialogues.
No.
So if you want to make drive time and turn it into learning time, that's a great technique to use and a great way to use that. I actually use that super learning technique and that training to acquire a designation that I had years ago, and to pass a test. It was a 6-hour-long exam that came around to the Boston area once every 6 months, and you had to have 5 years of experience before taking the exam and all this other good stuff. It was very intense, and I used that to practice and study for the exam, and it worked out pretty well. I passed. So it's a pretty neat technique. I've never shared that with you before, but I thought it was pretty cool. Before I get into the questions and answers, I want you to go to the last page. And next Friday, we're not having a session because we're falling right on the 4th of July. Listen, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be, working, but I'm gathering that most of you probably aren't. So, the weekend doesn't start for me until Saturday. All right. One of the reasons why when I was an agent I kept selling more homes than other agents is that I kept working during the middle of the summer, the middle of the winter when everyone else was taking their time off. There's just more available. Listen, people don't stop buying in the middle of the winter. That doesn't slow down home sales. What slows down home sales is realtors stop working. Look around your offices. Look at your managers struggling to put your duty schedule together, your opportunity schedule together, to find people to come into the office, right? It's amazing. So, listen, gang, if you want to really knock the cover off the ball, now's the time to do it because all your competitors are sleeping, right? Everyone around you, nobody's working. 2 weeks from today, in this very room, free, is a session called Defending Your Commission. Will you cut your commission? Has anyone ever heard that before? Hey, listen, if you haven't been on 10 listing appointments, if you have, the only reason you haven't heard that before is that you haven't gone on enough listing appointments, okay? Another agent said they would do it for less. Will you? Why should I pay you 7% when someone else will do it for 5 or 6? You ever heard that before? Maybe not because you haven't charged 7 or 6 before. You're going to learn how to handle the most frequently asked questions in real estate today because sellers are trying to what? Save money, right? Gas prices are through the roof. They want to save money, right? I'm going to teach you I'm going to share with you 10 approaches that agents use that don't work. Some of you may be using 1 or 2 of those approaches right now. Okay? I'm going to teach you the 3 Ds of effective handling, and then I'm also going to give you some tried and proven techniques used by the pros to consistently earn a higher than average fee. And gang, when I was an agent in a buyer's market, I can tell you that my average fee for service was 7% in a market where it was highly competitive. There were discount brokers in the market. There were 5 and 6% commissions were the most popular, and I was charging and consistently getting a 7% fee for service. Now, can you imagine that I would get some objections to that when I went on a listing presentation? Absolutely. I won't keep you in suspense. One of the very simple techniques that I used is I had 7% already pre-typed in my listing contracts. In my marketing agreements, they was pre-typed, so when I go to the listing, there it was. Pre-typed, right in the form.
I'm jumping ahead, of course, but
Yeah.
what were the reasons why you were worth 7? Again, I'm not saying this to, I'm just,
Yeah,
yeah.
I literally have to answer that at the session. There's also, and I tell you why I have to keep you in suspense, is that
Okay, John.
there's a process psychologically that I need to bring you through first before I give you the reasons. And it's kind of like when you come to these sessions, part of my job is to sell you on you. Right? And I'm going to do that first before I share with you the techniques, because then truly, I know for a fact I would be doing you a huge disservice if I shared all that with you now.
Okay.
And so if you can't make the session in 2 weeks, if you're in Florida or on vacation somewhere, we will have it on DVD available for you to check out. So that will be available to you. Now, questions?
Okay, I'm chopping at the bit.
Yes.
The most, these are the objections that I'm getting. This is not a fire sale. This is my son's inheritance, which really is like, oh my gosh. And what's the other one? There's one more. I'll think of it later, but those 2 will do for now.
All right, let's start with the first one.
Yeah, this
Well,
is
say
not,
it again.
this
Let's
is
roll
not
call.
a fire sale.
Oh, so,
And I've been sending this person, this was my first listing, it's my neighbor. And Mary came with me, and we took it because of, it was a listing, so we took it. Probably not, shouldn't have, but we did. And so now it's, and she had already come down in price, $40,000.
again, it doesn't matter.
So it may
Who
not.
cares?
Exactly. But the thing is, now I've been sending comps over there every week. Every
Yes.
week I do a little short version CMA and I send it. And she
Yep.
tells me, oh, those are dumps. But they're not, I mean, they're comps. They're really comps.
Here's what I'm begging you to do, Louise.
Okay?
Go there and start over.
Yeah.
Don't send her anything more email or in the mail. Make an appointment to go there in
We have to
person.
sit
Dan.
down
You have to
face to
sit
face.
down face to face. There's something really important that I need to go over with you, and it's about getting your property sold. And we need to discuss it in person.
Yeah.
Make the appointment and sit down with them. Now they know you're serious, first of all, because you made the appointment. Now you've set the stage. You go there in person,
Start
and
from
you
the
bring
beginning.
your CMA with you,
Yeah.
your revised CMA with you, and then use the 3 dialogues.
Okay.
And you know what? Use that third technique, the Post-it notes,
Yes.
and let her do her own appraisal.
Yeah.
And let her say, oh, that's a dump. Well, is it a dump? Or let me ask you a question. I mean,
They need updating, her home needs updating.
all right, so,
Same.
yeah. I mean, you could
They're-
call,
they're
why don't you do
comps.
this? Why don't you call the listing agent of each one of those properties and get their permission to record the conversation and ask them questions about the property, and tell them why
I've
you're.
been in them.
Listen,
I go to them to
listen,
see
I'm,
them.
well, that doesn't matter because she's not going to believe you. You're the listing agent. You just want to get a commission.
That's the other
Follow-
objection.
But listen, follow me on this. I'm gonna call Linda on the phone. I'm gonna say, Linda, you're an agent. I'm an agent. Listen, I don't know if you've ever run into this before, Linda, but you know what? Here, I got a problem, and I'm hoping you can help me out. If you ever want to make a friend, don't do a favor for them. Ask them for a favor, okay? And so I call Linda on the phone. I say, Linda, I've got a problem. It's my listing over on 23 Lindsay Lane. And you probably know the product. Linda says, yeah, I know the product. I showed it a couple weeks ago. And say, listen, you and I know it's overpriced, and I know you have a comparable product. I'm actually using your comp as one of my comps, and your property sold for $329,900. I've got mine priced at $370, and I'm trying to get the seller to be realistic. So what I was hoping, this is a little little different, but what I want to do is I want the seller to hear exactly the condition of the property. Can I ask you a list of questions? And what I'd like to do is record it on a tape recorder and play it for the seller, because when I tell her, she doesn't believe me, but if she actually hears it from you, Linda, because you're a professional, you've been in the business for a while, I'd love my seller to hear what you have to say about your listing. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to hit record, and I'm going to ask you some questions about the house, and I'm going to play this recording for my seller so that they can hear from you, someone who's been in the business and worked in this area so long and done such a good job of selling your listings. I'd like for you to answer some questions about property. Would you mind helping me out?
I could probably deal with people right in my office who have listings that are comps, because this is a very typical, it's a Cape, very typical house in the town I live in. So
Did you bring over interior pictures of the comps, or just the, because that's also helpful.
I believe the CMA had the pictures.
Well, listen, we're gonna start over. So take that as a
Do that
suggestion.
as well,
Okay.
yes.
I
So
just
bring
did
the interior
that, just
photos.
like,
Okay.
you know,
Absolutely.
yeah, the numbers are the numbers, but this is what their house looked like.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds a little insulting, but you gotta almost like get her into some kind of reality.
There
Yeah.
is no, it's becoming a very difficult process, the reality.
Listen, if all three don't work,
Then you
Walk
know,
away.
say, it's
Walk
time
away.
to.
Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I have two forms in front of me. They're both what we call MLS data change forms. One of them has canceled circled on it, or withdrawn circled on it, and the other one has a price adjustment.
Right.
Before we leave today, one of these has to be signed by you.
Okay,
And say it with a smile, with a little puppy dog face.
it makes sense, it makes sense. I mean,
Because I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to give you any false expectations. I understand fully well that it's a fire sale. But then go back to the objection handling dialogue track that I shared with you before. What is it about the 329 that concerns you the most? I can understand how you feel. What is it about the 329 that concerns you the most? See, what you've told me, what I haven't heard yet from the seller is why. Like, what is the burning reason why? Do they need the money? What do they need it for? You don't know yet, and that's okay. Most people don't. But you need to find that out by going to cushion it, question it, and then
I
they
think
say,
it's a, you know, to tell you the truth,
Is it like
I
an ego
know-
thing?
I know where they're going.
Yes.
And I know that they can buy property for, they're going to Missouri.
Okay.
And they can buy property for half the price they can buy it up here. I know that they don't
Yeah.
have,
let me ask you a question, Mr. and Ms. Seller. Is it that you think by asking more, you're going to get more? Be honest. Is that what you're feeling?
probably that's what they're feeling. Yeah. And it's a principle thing. They got this block.
But is that what you're feeling? Yes. You think that by asking more, you'll get more. If I could prove to you now, you isolate, is that the only thing keeping you from making an adjustment in the price? And if they say, no, the other reason is we need the money to pay off this or that, or you don't know what their personal finances
Right.
are. Well, then you've got a condition that you can't work with, right?
Right.
But if you've got an objection that you can handle, and now they say, well, they think that by asking more, they're going to get more. You and I know that's not true, but we have to change the way they feel about that in order for them to change their mind about doing it. So then what we do is we isolate. Is that the only thing? Yes. Well, let me show you something that I think will help you to understand how by asking less, you get more. And then you show them the comps. Show them the expired list. You take out the huge list of Cole Bangalore, 546 expireds in a whole year, and you're going to be on that list if we keep doing what we're doing. There are two things that these people had in common. Number one, they didn't get their home sold, and number two, they tried to do what you're doing right now. They tried to ask more to get more, and look what happened to them.
Yeah.
I don't want you to go on that list. I want you to be on the sold list, and so do you, because I know you need to sell your home. So in order to get your home sold, what I'd rather see you do is price it right to the 329 where we need to be at, and hold firm, right?
But
I'd rather see you do that and turn down 20 offers in a row, rather than to overprice it and not even get a single buyer to even look at the property. Now, if all this doesn't work, Louise, walk away.
Yeah, I get, we don't have to sell, we just want to sell. I'm like,
Okay, but you need to
what does
clarify that
mean?
for me.
What does that mean?
Here's another dialogue. I went to a session by Brian Tracy. He did a phenomenal job, and he said, whenever you meet in a situation like that, he said, always ask this dialogue, ask this question. How do you mean?
Yeah, to me, that's why it's a natural response. What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
How do
But
you-
oftentimes, we don't ask that question, we think that, well, so ask that question.
Yes, I
How do you
will.
mean? Here's what you have to
Roberta,
do.
line 2, Roberta?
What you need to do is you need to go back to the house and relist the property.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And decide whether you want it or not. Go with those two forms.
Yeah.
And you have to have, listen, it's harder to go in there and do what I'm asking you to do. It takes more fortitude, more strength to say no than it is to just say, okay, well, we'll just keep trying it at this price. I know it's
But I'll
bothering
tell you,
you.
it's very painful to do what I'm doing right now, which is looking at that sign every day and going, she's gonna lower the price.
Right.
That's very painful.
Yes.
So,
Here's what happens. Unfortunately, you run out of time.
yeah.
It becomes the 4.5, 5.5 months into the listing. They have already started interviewing other agents for the job of getting the property sold. You're already out.
Yeah.
And not only are they
Well,
not listening, not only are they not listening to you now as an agent, not you, Louise, but
Yeah.
in general. I mean, this happens all the time. It's rampant, where they're not only listening to the agent, but they've already decided that this person can't get the home sold. All this person's interested in is getting the price down. Because the person didn't take the time to walk them through the process, the psychologically history-proven sound process of sharing with them and showing them how and why they need to get
And that is the
price
other
down.
objection that I couldn't think of, is you just wanna make a commission.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but when you sell your house, I make a commission. You wanna sell your house. I wanna make a commission, but you wanna sell your
Yeah.
house. That's
Mr. and Mrs. Seller, listen,
We're on the
Yeah.
same page, we're on the same
Right.
team here.
exactly. But say that to them.
Yeah.
It's okay to say that to them.
Yeah.
So I would say go and relist. Any other questions? No? Okay, we're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna shut the video down, and if anybody has any individual one-on-one questions, they can ask me. Guys, thanks all for your support. Thank you all for your support. Look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks on the Defending Your Commission. That's a powerful session. I look forward to that. And thank you all for being here
Thank you.
today. Great job. Thank you. How's your knee?
I feel the thought going into therapy today.
You gotta go in.